I'm Matt Dixon, and welcome to the Purple Patch Podcast. The mission of Purple Patch is to empower and educate every human being to reach their athletic potential. Through the lens of athletic potential, you reach your human potential. The purpose of this podcast is to help time-starved people everywhere integrate sport into life.
I think you look terrific, at least on the outside. But what's going on the outside is not really what drives your personal performance. No matter what arena you're chasing better improvements in life, it's really important about what's going on inside. It's very difficult to really understand what's going on with your physiology, especially across all of the aspects that drive our personal performance. Well, a tool that we leverage at Purple Patch is Inside Tracker, because by assessing your biometrics and combining it with the advice and expertise from the team of scientists and experts at Inside Tracker, we get some really precise focus areas to filter out the stuff that will become distractions and instead dial in the habits and the interventions that are going to help you perform. Across all aspects of longevity and performance, things like your cognitive health, your strengths, inflammation, heart health, everything that builds up to you becoming a high-performing machine, Inside Tracker assesses it and gives you an action plan with simple actions that you can take so that you can go on and improve. And it's very, very simple. All you need to do is head to insidetracker.com/purplepatch and use this special code, PurplePatchPro20. That's PurplePatchPro20. It gives you 20% off everything at the store. I leverage it with my athletes, and you can too. You don't need to be a Purple Patch athlete, but what you do need to care about is improvement over the course of 2024. And that's what we're here to help you with. All right, enjoy the show. And welcome to the Purple Patch Podcast. As ever, your host, Matt Dixon. And today, well, we're going to talk about something sexy. Organizational effectiveness. Goodness me, are you salivating? Well, it turns out this is a key component of anyone's performance journey. For the last 20 years, I've worked with successful elite athletes, high achievers in business. And everyone I worked with were talented to some degree. They were certainly ambitious. They all understood the importance and commitment of hard work. And for success, every single person I work with buys into the program. The main components of the program, adopting the practices and habits that facilitate performance readiness every day. And then secondly, in the other channel, really developing and embracing the journey, because they understand and appreciate that along the journey of commitment, they're going to derive loads of lessons that are going to make up the critical tools to equip them for their journey towards success. And this is great. But there's a truth to all of this, that none of this would lead to optimal results, whether it's in sport or business, if it weren't for their organizational effectiveness. The framework, the planning, the organization, that is clearly the catalyst to make it all work. And so today what I thought we would do is dig into the details a little bit, provide a little bit of perspective around this. And so the thing for you to perform isn't just your smarts or talent, your hard work, but it is actually ensuring that it's effective. The good news is that it's not overcomplicated. And so it's going to be pretty short and sweet today, but it will be of high value and use. Before we get going though, let's sit back and relax. It's time to do, Barry, the word of the week. Sing away.
We like the way he thinks, serious with a wink. Let's open the book, it's time to take a peek. It's the Dictionary word of the week.
Yes, folks, the word of the week this week, well, it's one of my performance words, team. Last week, I was being interviewed, someone from the media, and they asked me a very interesting question that took me back actually a little bit, because they said, okay, working with you, how's that different than working with some other coach? And that almost pushed me into the corner. I almost had to be egotistical in my answer. And so I wanted to share my response with you today, because I thought it provided a little bit of an opportunity into the perspective and approach that we apply at Purple Patch, and I thought it might be interesting for you on your journey. So my line back to the interviewer was pretty short and sweet. I said, well, I think the biggest difference is whenever I work with an athlete, they don't just work with me. And of course, that flummoxed the interviewer, and they requested that I say more. And so allow me to paint the context a little bit. When some people take on a coach, they go through a process typically. Which coach is going to fit my goals, my personality, my situation, what I'm looking to achieve? And there's nothing wrong with this. But if we just pause for a couple of seconds and we think about other sports, particularly at the elite level, it's seldom that any individual athlete is ever going to be solely dependent on a single person's expertise and wisdom to further their performance. Typically, there's some form of a team around that athlete. And so I asked the question, why would you limit yourself to a single person's expertise, no matter who they are, when you can benefit from the expertise of many? And this is the very mindset that we took when we set up our Purple Patch ecosystem. You see, in our squad programs, using one example, any athlete that participates in that program enjoys the benefit of not a single person or guide, but the whole Purple Patch team. And in addition, they have access to a host of experts in fields that we provide access to along the way. And even if it's an athlete that's working directly with me, one-to-one, I can't think of a single athlete that I've coached along the journey who, throughout their progression, hasn't benefited from expertise of someone in the broader Purple Patch ecosystem. Now, this might be a video assessment around swimming from Coach John Stevens, or it might be a strength session with Marsha at the Performance Center, or maybe a little individualized help on hydration from Andy Blow of Precision Hydration, or fueling and nutrition guidance from Scott Tyndall at Fuel In. Whatever it is, there's lots of people in the tool shed, if you want to call it that, to help any individual be successful. The key is, while I'm effectively owning the program, so I'm responsible for the guidance, the prescription, the education, etc., why would I not, as a coach, draw on the expertise from others to help this athlete be successful? After all, let's face facts here. John Stevens, Purple Patch coach, he's better than me at developing technical swim improvements. He's a really good technician. And Marsha is a true wizard in functional strength. Andy and Scott, who I mentioned, considered world experts in their fields. And so by me opening up, sometimes understanding when it's important to take a step back, everybody wins. Because, most importantly, the athlete wins. And for me, the reason I highlight this today is because this is really much of what it means to be a Purple Patch athlete. It's also why we put so much energy into how we operate as a coaching team. We collaborate, we coordinate as a team and a set of experts. What does it take to make athletes faster? What does it take to help them integrate practices into their life to make their big life bigger? That's the question. It's not, oh, look at me, look how good I can make them. How can we do this? This is why, as a coaching team, we've been together for quite some years now. Not many coaches leave Purple Patch. And in addition, it is quite an arduous journey for any incoming coach to go through the process, to learn, and for enable us to have the trust to integrate them where we set them free on an individual athlete. Because being a Purple Patch coach means thinking about things in team, going beyond yourself. And to be a Purple Patch athlete, to be willing and open to ensure that you're surrounding yourself by experts to make yourself better. We have a really fun saying at Purple Patch. I don't ask for much, just everything. Now, of course, that's a unifying comment. It also brings a little bit of a chuckle, but it's something that we take seriously. What does it take to make athletes more successful? And we're going to bring everything. All we ask is you bring your very best. So why don't we do that? And that is why our word of the week this week is team. And with that, well, I'm hungry, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get on with it. It is time for the meat and potatoes. Yes, folks, the meat and potatoes. Whew. Organisational effectiveness. It's not exactly the most sexy subject. I agree. But it is a golden key. It is a golden key that you can leverage to unlock whatever talent or smarts you have, the hard work that you're willing to put in over the course of the journey. It is the gasoline on your performance fire. And yet most people don't really consider it or think about it. And so to highlight why this is important, what I thought we'd do is we'd go all the way back to how we developed our tool for organisational effectiveness that is now leveraged across every Purple Patch athlete, as well as all of the Purple Patch team, all the employees, all of the coaches, myself, Kelly. We all leverage what is called the Sunday Special. But we need to understand where it all came from, because it was really a fix to solve what I saw as a very big challenge early on in my coaching career of the Purple Patch Pro Squad. I realised something important over the first 2 years. Each of these athletes, very talented, ambitious, hard-working, but consistently they face struggles with organisational effectiveness. Now, you might not have stopped to consider this, but the life of a professional athlete goes way beyond the demands of just swim, bike and run in a triathlete's case. It goes well beyond sport. And almost every single week, I had athletes that faced roadblocks from really, ultimately, the truth is, poor planning and prioritisation. I became aware that many of the team that I was coaching were existing. What I mean by that is they were just living their life deep into the weeds. They were checking off the boxes of sessions, but never hitting the sessions as understanding the context, what was occurring in the days following, and how they needed to execute it to make the whole program work together. They were just day to day, session to session, checking them off, working hard, but not necessarily working effectively. In other words, as I looked at almost all the athletes that I was working with in the early years, they were existing in a highly reactive state. And as a consequence, not a week went by where I didn't get a complaint or a report. I missed a session. I didn't fuel properly after the workout. I just didn't have anything in the cupboard. I'm just feeling overwhelmed. The training is fatiguing. Now, to add to this, I was really frustrated as a coach as well. How can these athletes that are so talented lack even the basic understanding to be able to make smart decisions when they're actually met with fatigue? Should I push through, or should I maybe back off and save it for another day? And if they came across a training session in which I asked them to go really easy and smooth, it was 50-50 whether they would follow that prescription or go really hard, often sabotaging a subsequent key workout. And so I was frustrated as a coach at the athletes. They were frustrated because they didn't really have any sense of control. Now, this was really interesting because I, as a coach, had their trust. They believed in their program and they all showed up. They were willing. And so this wasn't a lack of an athlete and coach connection. It was a planning and disorganization challenge. I'll never forget sitting at dinner one night, sitting down with Kelly and just spilling my frustration and annoyance. And I said, gosh darn it, I need to coach the pros like CEOs, but equally, I need to coach the CEOs like the pros. Now, this saying became a mantra for years at Purple Patch, and there was truth in it. And the reason that I said this was that so many of the professional athletes were disorganized. They didn't have the same sort of organizational effectiveness that most of the C-level executives that I was working with in parallel did have. On the flip side, most of those executives that were highly organized in life did a really poor job of applying any of the smarts and intelligence across to their fitness and wellness program. And so we thought, you know what? We need to fix this. This is actually an opportunity for us to help both the time-starved people that were busy in their professional life and these pros that were ultimately seeking world-class performance. And it was my role to equip them on their journey to be really effective in that. Now, as I said, we had no limitation around trust and commitment and ambition. We just needed to unlock their effectiveness. So what I decided to do was go on a journey where I could help these pros get really organized. But I knew that I needed to make it simple to execute, I needed to make it habitual, I needed to make it universal across the whole team so everyone was doing the same thing. And I needed to ensure that it didn't consume much of their life, because I knew that it wasn't going to be successful if I asked for something every single day or for a 3-hour block on the weekend. They just didn't have the time, the energy, or frankly, the commitment to this part of their journey to really do something like that. And so I decided to do some homework. And I didn't look in the sports world. I didn't go back to my world of clinical physiology. Instead, I went to business books and websites. And I reviewed what I felt like the vast majority of available programs and tools out there, all anchored under this banner, organizational effectiveness. Where were you when I needed you, Marie Kondo? Anyway, I also went and looked at some of the research out there and the impact of integrating these tools, planning and high organization, into people's effectiveness, studying the habits and practices of people that I viewed across this business world that were ultimately really effective. And my mission was to try and find a solution that I could apply across every individual, but also the whole team. And the focus was a few key elements. Very simple. Number one, a framework. A framework to coordinate all of the competing demands they had. So think about it: training, nutrition, recovery, sleep, managing sponsors, developing brand. All of those components, a tool that could coordinate all of those in any given week. That was number one. Number two, I wanted to utilize a system or tool that could help with perspective. And so a little bit of a prioritization exercise, because there's always 50 things that you can focus on. I wanted the athlete to be empowered to understand, okay, this week coming, not only what are the key training sessions that I've got coming up, but of course, everything I could focus on, I kind of need to. What are the things that I am going to focus on? And so becoming what I called an assassin of effectiveness, and be quite savage on actually being able to say, this is what I am deliberately, intentionally not going to focus on this week so that I can show up X, Y, and Z. Perfect. The third element was to deliver on a goal of adopting a practice that would help the athlete have clarity, focus. Okay, great. I've got these 2 days where I need to show up and really train well. They're going to be the ones that are challenging, etc. And ultimately establish a sense of control. That's the magic word: stability, control. And so in other words, I wanted every athlete to enter each week, and that was always Monday for us, in a ready-to-execute mode, instead of the current highly reactive state that many of them did. Now, I realized that no single solution was probably going to emerge out of this, but I also realized something else. And that's that no matter how good our planning was, no matter how well we set up a system, life is not a spreadsheet. Things change. And so instead, what I wanted to do is give a runway of an athlete to develop that control, that focus, that prioritization, but also have their eyes wide open to the week so that when stuff did happen, and invariably it did, they were at least better equipped to make smart, real-time decisions. That was important. Now, out of all the research we did, and we went back and forth, we didn't come up with a single off-the-shelf approach. And that's not surprising, because we were trying to get a lot of things done. But what I did get to do was draw and get inspired from many of them, and then just tailor and tinker with it to create something that would work for us. And what emerged was a program and a system that, while it has evolved a little bit, and we've tinkered with it and changed it a little bit along the way, it has stood the test of time. Because this was about 15 years ago. But still now, this tool is the backbone and practice not just for elite athletes throughout that decade plus of working with the Purple Patch Pro Squad, but it is the same organizational framework that we use for anyone engaged with Purple Patch. Our coaching team and all of our employees, myself and Kelly, the executives we work with, the busy parents, time-starved athletes, and beyond. And it is called the Sunday Special. It's very simple. The reason we call it the Sunday Special is because mostly, typically, people adopt it and execute this practice on a Sunday before they enter the week. And here's the headline news. It doesn't take long. It is a commitment, in fact, it's a habit of 30 minutes in a nice comfortable chair, maybe with a nice espresso, or maybe even an afternoon brandy if you so wish. A nice pen, it doesn't need to be feather-quilled, but a nice pen in which you're going to commit to 30 minutes. And you're going to go through a few simple steps. The biggest thing is to get first clarity, then go forth and get focus and prioritization, including filtering out distractions. And we tend to start with the life stuff. Think about, if you've got kids and so forth, family and life commitments. Okay, what are the building blocks here? What do we need to get done? Where are the priorities? Where do I need to be when? Boom. The second step is look at work. Fantastic. Okay, what are my big meetings? What are the priorities? What am I going to really focus on and achieve this week? And perhaps most importantly, or as importantly, what am I not going to? What can I actually push back to the weeks following so that I can build a system of focus and success over any given week? And then the third step is go into integrating, there's the magic word, training and all of the other habits in life. Now, there's more to it than this, but that's just the headline news of the process. Life, work, training and habits. And you're getting all of the competing demands to work together. Now, when I designed this, I was designing it for the pro athletes. And I was thinking in pretty small terms. I wanted a planning tool for the week ahead. But what quickly emerged was, what this is doing is forcing, by adopting this habit, a key component of a high-performance mindset. All of those traits that we know highly successful people develop and adopt. And one of them is reflection. And the Sunday Special, or whatever planning tool you use on any given week, is a wonderful opportunity to have forced reflection. Because by that 30-minute commitment, you're pausing, you're coming out of the weeds of life, you're looking back, and hopefully you're going, how was last week? What did I do well? What did I achieve? What are the areas that I can improve on? And then also, as you plan the next week, where do I need to course correct? I know where I'm looking to go. This is my North Star or my mission. I'm going to course correct, and then under that context, I'm going to go through my planning. And that becomes really powerful. And so, it's no surprise that this tool that was designed and developed with professional athletes in mind just to manage all their competing demands naturally flows and extends well beyond elite athletics because it's a really simple, easy to adopt practice for effectiveness. And in fact, in our educational program, the Purple Patch Method, when we take an incoming athlete and we help them become more effective, the first thing they do is not to get them moving every day, not to adopt practices of nutrition or recovery. We don't get them to get a gym membership for strength. Instead, what we get them to focus on is the Sunday Special, because it is the framework that everything else is going to operate within. And so, what's the lesson for today? Well, as you march forward, you head into the year ahead, I highly recommend that whatever practice works for you, it doesn't have to have the cute name of the Sunday Special, but whatever practice works for you to plan your week, organize, prioritize, filter out distractions, don't just make it something that you might do. Make it a non-negotiable. Because every week it should provide control, perspective, and enable you, as life happens, to make really smart, in-time decisions. From this platform, your ambition, your hard work can flourish, and you can meet your performance potential. I'll see you next week. Guys, thanks so much for joining and thank you for listening. I hope that you enjoyed the new format. You can never miss an episode by simply subscribing. Head to the Purple Patch channel of YouTube and you will find it there and you could subscribe. Of course, I'd like to ask you, if you will subscribe, also share it with your friends, and it's really helpful if you leave a nice positive review in the comments. Now, any questions that you have, let me know. Feel free to add a comment and I will try my best to respond and support you on your performance journey. And in fact, as we commence this video podcast experience, if you have any feedback at all, as mentioned earlier in the show, we would love your help in helping us to improve. Simply email us at info@purplepatchfitness.com or leave it in the comments of the show at the Purple Patch page and we will get you dialed in. We'd love constructive feedback. We are in a growth mindset, as we like to call it. And so feel free to share with your friends. But as I said, let's build this together. Let's make it something special. It's really fun. We're really trying hard to make it a special experience. And we want to welcome you into the Purple Patch community. With that, I hope you have a great week. Stay healthy, have fun, keep smiling, doing whatever you do. Take care.